Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm looking at the time. Good afternoon. It's July 18th, and we're talking about special interviews. This is really special, and I've been pondering this and thinking about this for a long time. I've been doing my research and studying about David and Megan. And their work means a lot to me for a lot of reasons, because it's expanding your universe, your knowledge, your health. I've been a big fan of all of that, the elements of expansion, your mind, and getting rid of things. We just spent like an hour, literally, just chatting and getting acquainted. And I was listening to their podcast last night, and doing my due diligence reading, and we're different but so unique, but we're bound by the commonality of healing, and what you can do with the human body and the human mind is beyond. I always like to think of a poster boy for health and for the proper way of going through things and learning and discovering things about yourself. I'm a poster boy because I've been highly functioning, I'm a month away from 77. That's which amazing. Is 3 years away from being an octogenarian, which I don't think I like the sound of that, but I'll take it. But the bottom line is this thing here functions really, really well, and that's why David and Megan are here. I'm going to read the title, David and Megan of Maegical. Yeah. It's healing the world with Ayahuasca retreats and Psilocybin ceremonies. They're live from Texas, and they have so much to unpack and talk to you about. And again, I'm really thrilled that you guys are here. And I know you have hugely busy schedules, because I was reading stuff on your website which people will be able to see and digest. So I don't want to talk anymore. Why don't you guys do a little bit of a bio and a little history, and then we'll kind of jump into your life and your work.
Cool. Yeah, we'd love to. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful connecting with you before this too. Both Megan and I are all about, by the way, our pug is with us. So if you hear snoring, that's our pug.
That's what I do.
But we're all about energy. We're all energy, and we're all about connecting with those aligned energies. And your energy is so beautiful. It's been amazing to connect with you. So it's an honor to be here, to be able to talk about everything. And Megan and I, this mission's been so special, being able to see people transform and their decades and decades of trauma be released in a night, in 2 nights, working with ayahuasca and psilocybin. And Maegical has, both Megan and I have been working in these arts the past few years, and we have amazing teachers from the Amazon, from Colombia, that have taught us these arts. And right now, we run Maegical. We basically do really powerful plant medicine retreats all over the world, from Belize, which is our ultimate experience, to the Amazon, Mexico, next year, Italy, Turks and Caicos, but we do some in domestically as well. So we help people heal suppressed trauma. We help people heal chronic illness, depression, anxiety, any ailments that tend to be quote unquote uncurable, and people get stuck. A lot of them divinely find their way to us, and these beautiful plants are able to facilitate that. But the heart and soul of it really is Megan and her story. Her story and everything that she's been through to be able to heal herself and use that same formula to heal others.
I read several times your story, Megan. It was a rough journey. You had a rough journey, and sometimes you look back on that and it's a journey for a purpose. because it allows you to be who you are now, and it allows you to help others with your journey. Yeah, I do have one little editorial comment to make. I read voraciously articles on health every day. Truly, that's just who I am, my background. And I read more and more and more about this whole new world of which you are in. Mushrooms, psilocybin, medicinals, healing, way above and beyond quote cannabis. We're talking about major healing. So you're in a wonderful place, and you're really at a forefront of a whole new world. And to quote Aldous Huxley, a brave new world, where you're at. So jumping into what is it that began your journey with plant medicines and ayahuasca? How did all that begin?
Yeah, and I wanted to comment on that because, you know, that's one of the missions that Megan and I have also, is destigmatizing these medicines, destigmatizing the power of these plants. Whole nother topic, won't go into it in this moment. Happy to later if it calls to you, but there's been a lot of specific programs and stuff run on people to really have a lot of fear around these medicines and these plants, and they're so sacred and they're so beautiful. So I really appreciate you saying we're on the forefront of this, because it is. People are waking up. People
yeah.
are waking up because as one of our greatest teachers, Master Shaman Danilo Jimenez, he says the depth of trauma is so deep and suppressed in the Western world. This beautiful medicines are making their way over here now because people need this kind of healing, and these sacred ways, or these are sacred plants, are ways to heal. So thank you for saying that. I wanted to mention that first.
And I said it completely unsolicited.
Yeah.
I'm saying it, and actually, you know, when you guys popped into my life and I saw your work and all the stuff I'm reading, and of course my friend Gaetano, Lord of Erie, who's in this space here in New Jersey, keeps talking to me about it, and is opening and expanding my mind. I'm realizing that this is a whole forefront of things we know not enough about, and it's going to explode. And you're right there at the very beginning in what you're doing. So and that's what really, you know, kind of lit my fire. It's an old Jim Morrison song,
Yeah,
maybe
well,
before your time, but
no, not. I
oh,
definitely
okay.
know. I
Well, that's
definitely
good.
know some
That's
more.
good. So
So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt
no,
your
yeah.
question. What started it, and Megan can really talk about this. The heart, we both work together, absolutely, in this mission, but the heart and soul of it is Megan. She has this incredible intuition that was derived from her story, all the things that she had to heal from and what she went through. And it cultivated this really divine story of learning how to heal these incurable, quote unquote, incurable ailments that she now utilizes at the retreats to help heal others.
Wow.
So it's really her story of,
So what was the question? Sorry, someone knocked on our door and the dogs went crazy. So it was
the question.
Well, a little bit of your background, Megan, how you arrived
Mhm.
where
yes.
you're at, and what, I don't know how much you want to share. I mean, it's
For
out
sure.
there. How much you
Yeah.
want to share of what got you here and the things that you've overcome.
Yeah.
Sit in this, go back. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I'll try to keep it as short as I can because it's a lot. It is a lot. You know, I first of all want to say I did have a wonderful family. I just happened to have some very dark period where my mother married my stepfather. And that's really where the root of all of my trauma, illness, everything started. You know, my mom, she had me when she was 17, and she go to no, and she had me when she was 17, and my stepfather came into the picture, you know, many years later. But my grandparents raised me up until that time, and they were wonderful. My grandparents were like my mother and father, and my mom went off to school, to college. They wanted her to be able to do what she could to be successful. But then my mother, whenever I was in the third grade, she had met a man and she married him. And it unfortunately was one of the worst decisions she could have ever made, for herself, for me, for all involved. He was this is why yes, everything is energy. We are energy, but this is why I feel it's a gift, but I can feel into energy. And there's signs that I can see in people now, because my stepfather was very charming on the outside, very charming. Everyone loved him. You know what I mean? He was so friendly, so nice. And behind closed doors, he was evil, like truly evil, like demonic evil.
Wow.
And I didn't know anything about the spirit world like I do now after working in the ayahuasca space, but like so dark that I would say that he was like the possessor. Like, I mean, now looking back, I'm like, he honestly could have been a demon, like truly. So anyway, long story short, went through horrific trauma with him. I mean, he was so abusive to my mother right in front of my face. I thought he was going to kill her. And I was terrified for my mom's life and mine too. And he molested me, and I disassociated for survival. And I splintered off into so many different fractal pieces, for survival at the time. It was too much. It was too much, but he was also physically abusive. And so he beat me, and like he beat me, and I was afraid to, I was always in fear. I was afraid coming home from school, what it was going to be like. He was alcoholic. He would even get us in a car and get really drunk, and just to mess with us, act like he was going to like drive us off the cliff or like road, you know what I mean? Like terrifying things, terrifying. And then he was also psychologically mean. And I mean, I was getting it from every kind of angle that you could get it. And it lasted for many years. It lasted through the 8th grade. I was always so smart, but the trauma was so horrific that I had to repeat the 8th grade. And that is when it all came to a head, because Child Protective Services got involved, which now I'm so thankful that I'm safe, and Child Protective Services did not get a hold of me, because no telling what would have happened to me there. But so that I was divinely protected during that. But they got involved because I was going to school black and blue, and but what's crazy? And my mom and we did not get along. I mean, there was so much trauma. Like I resented her for putting me in that position for so many years. And because I was not living a normal childhood. I was like reading my Precious Moments Bible, like under my bed, crying in fear, like almost every day, as a child. It's just horrific. So my mom and I definitely never had the relationship, also because my grandparents raised me. So there was a lot of healing that I didn't even know needed to take place with my mother and I, which did not come until just recently, really. But it's interesting how everything came to hit a head, because before the timing of Child Protective Services getting involved, it was really the same time. I hadn't told anyone. I tried to tell my mom, like, Mike was being really weird last night, but I was so young. I was, I think, in the 4th grade. And how do you tell? You know what I mean? It was I didn't even understand what would happen, and she didn't get it, you know what I mean? But I wasn't obvious about it. I was hoping she would just be able to get it from what the hints that I was dropping, and she didn't, you know what I mean? So around that same time, so I would go and stay the summers with my grandparents. And we had a family friend. I won't mention his name, but he was one of my uncle's best friends. And like, he was like really like a father I never had, as far as like not a granddad father, you know what I mean? And he was really big in the church with my family. I was very raised in a church, like indoctrinated religion, fear-based religion, 100%. And very much was in that world, drank that Kool-Aid for a long time, and it led to a lot of trauma too. But during that time, it's really weird. It's like this person started to fall in love with me, even though I was a little girl. And I was at my grandparents for the summer, and and I was becoming a lady. I was like eighth, ninth grade now. And growing up as a little girl, he would always tickle my back to go to sleep. Anyway, I was asleep. He came in the room, started that process, and it went, from there. And I obviously freaked out because I had already been going through so much horrific trauma at that point. And so the timing of Child Protective Services just naturally getting involved coincided with the time that happened. And I ran and told my uncle what happened. I told him everything. Yeah. And so I told my uncle everything because I'm like, oh my gosh, he was just like fondling me. And then I told him everything about my all the abuse. Like, cause I wasn't even allowed to talk to my uncle. I wasn't allowed to call my grandparents. My stepfather kept me from being able to call them. And
Oof.
it was terrifying, truly. And like my mom and I are so lucky to be alive, 100%. We are very lucky to be alive. It's like the kind of stuff you see on a Lifetime movie, but like in real life,
Yeah.
And from there, I suppressed. Because, and then I just focused on always being the best at everything, like at school or anything. Like I had to prove something that I could be successful because I was so damaged, and
It's good, Steve.
yeah. And so I typically was really good at everything. And so I thought I was okay. And so if people would even bring up the trauma, like I'd react like, no, I'm like good. Like I'm strong, right? Thinking that's how it's supposed to be. I'm strong. And I went to so many therapists, for a long time I didn't because I was like, I refused. But I went to, Christian counselors. I went to psychologists. I went to psychiatrists that put me on tons of different things. None of it worked. Obviously, none of it worked. And then in college, this is where it really, really took an ugly turn. So like in college, everything was great. I was in a sorority and I was social chair. I was really active. It was a great time, and I had a lot of friends, and I had a serious boyfriend. And some women, girls that are molested, they either become promiscuous or it's the opposite. For me, it was the opposite. But I did with this one guy, and I did have intercourse with this one guy that I'd been with for a couple years, and I got pregnant. And my family was very, so I was the fear-based religion. This is where that trauma kicked in. So I was terrified. I was scared. I was afraid because of the way, you're not supposed to have sex before you get married. That I was afraid that my family might disown me.
Maybe out of wedlock.
Yeah. Like I was so afraid of being judged, and the guy did not want me to have it. And I did not, and at that time I had never even I'd gone to a gynecologist. Okay. I'd never had anything like that experience ever since, anything ever since my stepfather. So I go to get an abortion and I had no idea. And some girls are fine when they make that decision. They're fine. I was not afterwards. I was so worried about the physical aspect of it, which was not pleasant. But for me, the emotional trauma, it was like a light switch went on. And like overnight, I had chronic illness. Overnight. It was like everything snowballed.
Wow.
It was like all this stuff that was dormant became active because the stress and the trauma I just couldn't take it after everything else I'd been through already in my life. And I thought that I was going to go to hell. I thought that I was going to go to hell. I was a murderer, and that God was going to turn his back on me, because of the way that I had been raised in the church. And, eventually the guilt got to me so much that I just told my family because I was just not okay, and they, of course, I'll never forget when my uncle like hit the ground and was like, and started crying. It was like, I wish I could have known your son or daughter, like how that made me feel. You know what I mean? I was still a child, but like, oh my God, it was terrible. So again, another trauma, and that's when everything started. Like I didn't know what it was at the time, but first it was like interstitial cystitis, like bladder stuff, like IBS, gut stuff. And you go to the gastro doctor and they're like, put you on an antidepressant, and I'm like, what, and it just snowballed from there. I was always spending like so much money on doctors because I did all these mysteries, illness symptoms no doctor could figure out. I did colonoscopies, did all these things, but I was so sick. I became where I could not eat hardly anything. I was intolerant to everything before gluten was ever a thing.
Your stomach would distend.
My stomach would, it's beyond bloating. I have a
Crazy.
very flat stomach, but the inflammation, the distension, I mean, look like an alien. Like literally it would start high and it would go up. I would look like a woman who's about to give, like, I would say an 8-month pregnant
By the
lady.
way, I have to interrupt, because you do stuff with psychic mediums, and I've done 8 paranormal investigations, which I didn't tell you about, but one of my friends is a psychic medium, and when she's around bad spirits, her stomach
Whoa,
expands.
interesting.
So
Very interesting. And I actually was in a haunted mansion with her pre-Halloween. Her name's Jane Doherty, and she's written books, and the cops use her for,
She's famous.
it's Jane Doherty.
I thought I've heard that name anyway.
Well, she's written books, and but I was in this haunted mansion from pre-Revolutionary War, and I was actually in the same room with her when she detected a bad spirit and her stomach distended. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. That's
I had to tell you that.
No, it's interesting because
We've
it's
never
like
heard that.
this rare thing, and it's like huge and it's so uncomfortable, but it would stay like that for like 11 days at a time usually, and then as time progressed, it was just more, getting more severe. And then,
Antidepressants,
oh yeah, I was on so many, like I was on Xanax, and they'd alternate me from Xanax and Klonopin for 26 years. Like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. My body became physically dependent on it, which I can get to that later. But I was on antidepressants. I was on all these things, and I had horrific insomnia, as you can only imagine. But then they were giving me, I got diagnosed with lupus and Sjogren's. So then, and fibromyalgia. So then they're giving me, I was on like 10 different things for lupus, but like none of it was making me a zombie, but none of it helped. I still was flaring up. No one talked to me about nutrition. Obviously, not one doctor. Not one doctor would say it was diet. Acupuncture helped when I was in a flare up, but it definitely didn't prevent it. It was like something that could help me have a little bit of relief, whenever it happened. So then, I'm struggling with this for years and years and years, right? Well, then I have another trauma. At this time, I am like not into guys. I'm not into, really, I just like stay away, right? Guard up, protect yourself. And then when I was in my late 20s, I had another serious relationship, and he was charming. He was handsome and he was charming. I didn't realize, like my stepfather, I didn't realize, because he was so charming. And I'm like, how did this one get? But you hear that whenever this happens to you, that then you can attract it, right? And that was always one of my biggest fears, not knowing anything about universal laws and what you focus on, you can attract. I didn't know anything about that because I wasn't taught that stuff. You know what I mean? And I did attract it. He was very charming, bought me flowers all the time, like just so romantic, you know what I mean? Too good to be true type thing. Although he's too good to be true, and it's true. But anyway, I was engaged to him, and after like a couple years of dating, and then he had alcohol and he blacked out and he beat me to a bloody pulp. Like bad, really, really bad. And like, again, lucky I was alive because there was a gun in the house. And after he had like I was bloody, and after he had already got on top of me and just boom, 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 boom over my face, he went and sat on the bed and was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna blow my head off. And there was a gun in the house. And so I was like, oh my God, like I have to get out of here. He's going to kill me and kill himself. Like, I've got to get out of here. And so I had to press charges and yada, yada, yada. And so obviously that was horrific. They put me on like all sorts of psychotic medications that just were horrible and didn't help. And then now we're wrapping up to the trauma that I had that really just sent me over the edge after all of this just building up energetically in me, and so, in my unconscious and suppressed conscious mind. As I forgot to mention that when my mom had me, she was 17. My real father wanted her to have an abortion. She obviously didn't. So, like, I never knew my real father. And he actually came into my life when I was like 35. And same thing, like, just acted like he was this, like, riding in on a horse to save me and to like make up for the lost time, and made all these promises and yada yada yada. And then it got really weird. I felt like he kidnapped me. And I'm gonna not say a whole lot, but there's a thing called genetic sexual attraction. I think that's what happened. I think he truly started to like weirdly like become infatuated with me. And then he like tried to take my bra off when I was laying in bed sleeping. And of course I completely was just like, oh my God, this is not happening again. So you can only imagine by the time I met David, like the intimacy issues, the trust issues, you know what I mean? Like it was, he didn't know the battle that he was about to be up against, because we were like so in love, and our love story is so beautiful how we fell in love. We were so in love, but we had no idea the work that we were about to have to do. So that's what led me up to this. We fell in love actually on LSD. It was a very beautiful experience where we remembered being together like in past lives, and I channeled, I'm assuming, my higher self for the first time, and I had no idea. We were just friends doing medical software sales.
Never romantic.
Never. And we had that experience, and it was all these epiphanies, and I just remembered I had no idea I was going to say this. It was not me. It was not me. It was my first experience channeling.
Wow.
I looked up to him and I was just like, and I touched his face and I was just like, I love you. And I was like, wait, what?
This was in deep in an LSD trip.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
so
just backtracking.
Yeah.
I've listened to Megan, just trying to process all this. What were your things that needed to be healed, David?
yes.
So at that point, I'll give you mine. Not taking away from mine, because mine absolutely had its challenges. It wasn't at the depth by any means, but what I had to be healed, which didn't come out, well, there were two really big pieces that came out throughout our healing journey. I went through a really difficult divorce that I saw whenever I was 6, 7 years old. With my parents were kids having kids. And I love my mom to death. So I'm speaking my truth in this, but there's no judgment whatsoever in this, because it was kids having kids. She was 17. I couldn't imagine having a kid at 17. I was wild and outrageous until I was like 30. But when my dad would go to get deployed for the military, is my mom would cheat on him. And in my child's mind, I would see that, which I didn't know till way later, created a really thick abandonment issue in me. So God's quite interesting, because an abandonment issue, I like needed that affirmation of a physical touch, of words, of affirmation of words. And she had so much of that damage historically.
Intimacy issues.
That was the last thing that she was comfortable doing, but that's what I needed, which caused us both to make a choice to do the deepest inner work. But so I had that. And I also, for some reason, had a very addictive personality, which did come out in alcohol, and binge drinking quite a lot in my professional. I was always really great at anything I did. And I don't say it with any ego. I have this ability, really, and we all have spiritual gifts and abilities. I have an incredible ability of speaking in front of people, of connecting with people. I'm great at that. So I always did well, but the addiction aspect was always there. I couldn't quite sit with myself and I wasn't comfortable. And I later realized what happened when I was also very young was I had an uncle that also molested me when I was a child. I didn't know. And because your brain disassociates when you go through something traumatic as a child, oftentimes the brain disassociates and the energy stays in the body. And as time goes on, it can create addiction, really. And not to addiction, people have different experiences, but in my experience, what I've noticed in working with many people with it, as well as myself, it's an inability to just be. You need like this escape. You need this constant because being is uncomfortable. Being with yourself is uncomfortable, which is why a practice of stillness is powerful. Whole nother topic, but I had to heal abandonment issues from the divorce. I had to, which I didn't even know I was molested till like literally 2 years ago when a medicine showed me that. I had to heal from those things, and really a deep journey of self-love, of knowing I was worthy of all that, even though I could tell my soul was connected to hers in some unexplainable way, but I was getting no verbal or physical affirmation or sign of that because of what she was going through on her healing journey. It was the craziest experience.
Health got way worse, which I forgot to mention.
Man.
Because so then over time, then it progressed as rheumatoid arthritis, right? And then Ehlers-Danlos. Like I would wake up and I'd have 3 ribs dislocated just from sleeping. My skull out of place, like debilitating bad.
So when we got together, she had about 6 or 7 autoimmune diseases and
parasitic infections.
She had all this stuff, but we got together and we tried everything. I took her every Western medicine doctor, every Eastern medicine doctor. We spent ridiculous amounts of money. Nothing was working.
Well, and I had already done that for 26 years prior
to
that. I had even had cancer cells and had a hysterectomy, like so many things.
Many things. So what ended up, we ended up getting her off. What really ended up bringing everything up was we knew we had to get her off the Xanax and the meds. We knew that was a piece, like it had to. So with the Xanax and cannabis is a beautiful medicine. It can be abused obviously, but it's a great medicine. But this is an important note. It's not to judge pharmaceuticals because they did help her survive that time, but you can't, it's not part of the healing journey.
When I got off of it, everything hit me in the face.
So when we got her off of those meds, when we were together, like decades of abuse and trauma started coming up, and these emotions
the Band-Aid off.
Were just, and that is when
when I knew I needed healing. Well, and here's what the drinking would bring out jealousy when I'm like, I love him.
That's right. That's right. The jealousy would come out in drinking because in my mind, my inner child thought that no way, the only relationship I saw was one where the woman cheats. So I had healing to do too. I had to get my shit together for sure.
Wow.
And also what led us to like the plant medicines, finally we're here.
Yeah.
What led us there was, so I would say a couple years before getting together with him, this is important to say, I had an awakening because of a psychic medium who is one of my mentors. He's amazing, Ricardo. I had an awakening of understanding like thoughts are things, universal laws. We create our thoughts and feelings, like our visualization, like all of these things, which later then I learned about quantum entanglement, quantum language, all these other things. And so meditation became, and it was a tug of war because I was so religiously indoctrinated and told that meditation was bad and would open me up to demonic things. The program was so deep that it was a tug of war. But then I'm like, I have my own discernment. Like, does this feel bad? Because what happened was I had so much medical debt. I had started meditation and focusing on abundance and prosperity. And then I learned about positive affirmations and I started speaking them and writing them where I could see them, making vision boards and writing in my affirmations. And that's why I attracted a lot of money, even though I had a lot of medical debt, so it didn't matter. But I attracted him. I also used my affirmations to attract my soulmate, my twin flame. But then I really realized how much healing that I needed because I thought I was okay. But when I got off the Xanax and everything hit me, because I had such bad PTSD and all of that. So it wasn't just the physical sickness either. I was dealing with, again, all angles, like suffering my whole life. It was just really, really tough. But then I started, I don't know why I didn't start out with this affirmation, but I started affirmations on healing and being healed and being perfect health. And that is when we attracted ayahuasca.
And that changed our life. This was
But
6 years ago. This is what was the very beginnings of what Maegical was about to be.
But up until this point, I will say I had a lot of success healing, not like on the deep layers that I needed physically, but with like mind expansion and mindset and things and manifestation, things like that, through meditation, affirmations, doing these things like that on a consistent basis, right? And then learning breath work, incorporating breath work. Breath work was really profound for me when I experienced it for the first time, doing like an hour breath work intensely. And so I did have quite a bit of healing, but not near what it was in store for me once we got to ayahuasca.
Which is leads me to the next question. How did you create this magical I'm saying magical mushroom healing ceremony? How did all that come about? How did it come about?
Yeah. So this is the perfect time for this next step. So we were guided to ayahuasca. Now, ayahuasca, there's a lot of systematic fear built around ayahuasca. Again, not going into the whole thing right now, but there's a lot of powers to be, in my personal opinion and experience, that don't want people experiencing these medicines, because when you heal, you don't need the system. So there's a lot of fear around it. Yeah. So we were guided to ayahuasca, and those first 2 ceremonies changed our life. So
it was intense though. Night 2,
very intense. So just Maegen had so much trauma, because what ayahuasca does, there's multiple things, and every ceremony is different. We've been in over 100, around 100.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca, what's the legal status of that? There is no.
Yeah, ayahuasca is legal in some countries, not in the United States. However, if you are affiliated with a church, which we're affiliated with the Native American Church, it's legal. We can carry peyote, San Pedro, ayahuasca, cannabis, and psilocybin.
That's all legal here.
As long as you are affiliated with a church and it's a sacrament of the church, yes. Also, our nonprofit is getting started right now, and our nonprofit is going to be a church that uses it as a sacrament. That is for.
So then we're super good.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways you can do it the right way.
So that was a great question I asked you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. That's so interesting. I had no idea, and I've got a fairly sophisticated background as a former pharmacist and that stuff, but I had no idea. So continue.
Yeah, there's a reason why alcohol is pushed at every corner, and ayahuasca and psilocybin are illegal. But again, whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But we were led to ayahuasca, and there was so much suppressed trauma that was released out of Maegen's energetic body. Tears, purging.
I was the show star. Let me put it to you that way.
It was so deep. Now, what happens? We all have spiritual gifts and abilities. We all have them. But oftentimes, I'm mixing what I've learned over the years with that experience looking back. Oftentimes, our gifts and abilities lie dormant or stagnant because of the energy of suppressed trauma, because of the energy of suppressed emotions that are deeply suppressed. So what started Maegical, and this is wild. Oh my gosh, if you ever have an ayahuasca experience, go with an open mind, because I was doing medical sales, killing it, crushing it. Medical software sales in New York City. I was doing great. Ayahuasca was like, from my experience, like, you're leaving all of that. You're leaving it all, and you're going to go the medicine path, because you're supposed to help people heal. Like, people need healing. This is your path. And I was like, I was so shocked. And while that was happening with me, this gift started flourishing in Maegen of how to intuitively work with psilocybin mushrooms.
but also it was really random how we created the ceremony, because after experiencing ayahuasca, we're like, man, it was such an awesome experience. We were like, we would love to create something like that, but I'm like, we can't facilitate
This was
ayahuasca.
way before.
You know?
This is way before we were working with ayahuasca.
Yeah, way before, because you have to go stay in the jungle and
You have to do initiations. You have to find your teachers. It's a whole
right.
thing.
We were not, and I thought I had healed a lot, but I didn't realize, because of my deep level of trauma and the amount of chronic illness in my body and the amount of acidity that was in my body, I didn't realize that my body was just so acidic. That's really the root of a lot of the physical stuff that I went to. You know what I mean? Do what?
We should stick to Magical though.
No,
The
I know.
Mushrooms.
I know, but now you made me lose my train of thought.
No, you're fine.
There was a point to that. It
Yeah.
all went together.
So
why would you do that?
You created the mushroom ceremony.
But yeah, so what I did is, it was random though. We were like, God, we want to create something, and I was like, we really had never done a magical event yet. So
Not
this
yet.
is like nothing. We had not done anything, and I was like, what if we take? Because at that time I started practicing. Because at first I thought I wanted to get into life coaching. I didn't realize it was so much bigger than that. But I knew I wanted to help people heal, because I'd already had a lot of profound experiences with breath work and the mindset stuff, right? And the quantum language that helped me so far. And so I wanted to teach that to people. So I was already working with people and doing like breath work, trauma breath work, and seeing the profound healing that was taking place, and doing what I call meditate and affirmate, which is a mind reprogramming that I've created. I write this 90-minute journey that is so beautiful, that lifts blockages, reprograms the subconscious mind, so that people can really tap into that higher frequency and manifest the life with their dreams with ease. And so I was like, gosh, what if we it was so random. It was so random, and it was risky. I was like, what if we just take all of the services that I've created and throw them into like one day, like have it be an itinerary, like they get all the services in one day, and then we throw some mushrooms in there and we call it a healing ceremony, and I was like, it's super risky. I've never guided anything like this before. I had never even really guided anything beyond just the meditate and affirmate with clients. So it could have gone really, really bad, but we were also at a place, because he had some business partners that had really, really taken advantage of us. And so we're at a place where it's like, no, we need to do something. And the universe is pushing me. It's been pushing me to do this for a long time. And because I haven't jumped on it, it's now making us uncomfortable, because it's like, no, it is time to stand into this power and do this. And so that is how the mushroom ceremony got started. And that is what really built Maegical, is the mushroom ceremony. And it wasn't the ayahuasca, but I later did, and David can chime in on this, but I later discovered the full formula that we use, which does include the ayahuasca in a certain order with the plant medicine. But we can go into that whenever we get to that point.
The formula. So what was beautiful was right after ayahuasca, if you experience ayahuasca, there's this massive energetic shift always right after, because there's so much cleaning that happens. So she put this mushroom mindset reprogramming ceremony together, and it was divine watching her facilitate it with no training for the first time.
It's like I've been doing it for lifetimes.
Like she's been doing it for lifetimes. It was such a hit, and it started changing people's lives immediately. People started flying in from all over the country to experience this mushroom, and it just word of mouth spread. And it just started
in his office.
People.
He had a
tiny little door-to-door office that I taught door-to-door sales in.
Yeah, and I tried to make it aesthetically beautiful as I could, because I'm a creator.
So that is what started Maegical, and then we started our podcast, and then what furthered Maegical, just to wrap it up with what started Maegical, we ended up on her healing journey, because everyone's different, but she had deep layers of trauma. So the ayahuasca continued to work with her. We did ceremonies. We had different shamans. We were divinely guided to our teachers, Master Shaman Danilo Jimenez and Mary Rodriguez. They're on our website. He's a master shaman, has been working with the medicine for 20 years in the Colombia and the Amazon. He's a well-known, very powerful shaman in the Amazon. There was an immediate connection. They took us under their wings. They started training us. They started teaching us. We started sitting with them. We did multiple initiations in the Amazon, deep with them and their teachers. And then Megan, again, she has this crazy
I was still
intuition.
healing. I was still healing like gut issues, like leaky gut and stuff. And I was like, really, I felt like, gosh, am I just going to die? And that's when they're going to figure out what this was all along. And it was like the last thing, that and the insomnia. And so on my healing journey, I had experienced the ayahuasca, and then I came home and did a mushroom, because here's the deal. I had done a mushroom journey earlier, and the mushrooms told me, because another part of our formula is the diet, a raw fruitarian diet, high fruit juicing diet, very profoundly healing for me. And so the mushrooms told me that. It took me 2 years to listen to the mushrooms after that, but they told me, that formula and how that is a part of it. But what I experienced was, after I'd had the ayahuasca, then we had done some ketamine infusions, but that wasn't really profound. It did create new neural pathways. But so in the order, I did ayahuasca, and then I had gone to an infusion. And then for some reason, I think I was really blown up. And I was like, I'm going to take some mushrooms. Like, I feel like the mushrooms could actually, with the intention of me wanting it to help this inflammation and everything in my gut, I'm going to take the mushrooms. And it was very, very profound for me, because I had all this cleaning from the ayahuasca, and then I take the mushrooms, and it was like not a regular mushroom. It wasn't a regular mushroom experience, because I immediately could tell that it activated the ayahuasca with it. And so the two spirits danced together, and I was like, whoa, this is divine. And there was no purging. So it was different than just an ayahuasca journey too. So it's very different when you put the two together. Like, it's amazing. And the epiphanies that I was having were just really profound. They were not like not the normal epiphany that you have on a typical psilocybin journey. And so that's how I created the formula. It was through my own healing. And it was like, okay, we do the ayahuasca followed by the mushrooms. We incorporate the raw fruitarian diet. We incorporate the mindset reprogramming, the teaching the quantum language, because anything you say in your now moment will manifest your future now moments, right? So it's all of this. Everyone wants it to be this one-all fix-all, and it's just not that way. Ayahuasca is very profound, though. I want to touch on this because it's not talked about, and it's very real. Well, first of all, what he said, for me, I had a lot of sickness and trauma. So for me, it took 15 ceremonies of ayahuasca to heal fully. It would heal it's an intelligence. It's a spirit, heals in layers. So like, it would have to heal, the Sjogren's before it could heal the rheumatoid arthritis, before it could heal the next thing, right? I also have had like 7 exorcisms, and each time, and it couldn't get every single entity out at once, but after getting so many layers clean, then she'd see the entity, and I'd have an exorcism, like real stuff. And instantly there would be a lot of my ailments that were healed. The back issues, I was always having to go to a craniosacral, and the back issues and the neck issues and all of that instantly gone. And like, the final thing for me was, I want this insomnia to go, because I could not get more from the age of since a child until just like a few years ago. I could not get more than 3 hours of sleep a night, period, ever. It was not, and that's horrible. You heal when you sleep. And on my 15th ceremony in Colombia with our teachers that he's talking about, that are just truly divine. I mean, I've seen them stop the rain, like the most I've experienced other shamans, but these are the most powerful and holy, and just, it is divine that we attracted to them.
Did you just say stop the rain?
It's the wildest thing. I wouldn't believe it unless I experienced it. We were doing an outdoor ceremony, and it started to rain. Danilo looked up at the sky, closed his eyes, and put his hand up, and it all stopped. He did it like 3 times over the next few hours.
If it's a blessing rain, he won't. If it's like a healing rain, he won't. But yeah.
Because I got to interject.
Sure.
I'm trying to join our world, because there's so I went on a paranormal investigation with this researcher scientist. We went one of my many adventures, myself, my co-host, my co-reporter, Tara, and this scientist who does these paranormal investigations, we went to this pre-Revolutionary War cemetery. And
wow.
And everybody died. Everybody who's buried there died before America was born. And and this scientist went to a particular grave and held a microphone over a grave It was a beautiful June summer day, 8, 9 years ago. It wasn't a cloud in the sky, and she held a microphone over this grave, and we read the. You can barely see the inscriptions on the floor there, but it said it was a girl who died like at 12 in 1760, and
Mm.
she asked the grave, "Are you a little girl?" And a few minutes later, we went in a circle, the three of us. We were in a little circle. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and she played back the recording, and it said, "You heard the voice." They heard it better than me, you
Ooh.
know. And the voice said, "Yes, I'm a little girl."
Oh,
Wow.
And then it started to rain on us.
wow.
So it wasn't a cloud in the sky, and I'm rubbing my arms. And by the way, I gotta tell you, I'm just a regular guy. I go to college basketball, college football, and I watch The Godfather every 3 months. So I'm a regular guy. There's nothing special about me, but it's raining on us, and I said, but I'm rubbing my arms, and I asked her, and she says, well, sometimes this happens. So anyway, what I'm saying now gives legitimacy to what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is a very powerful shaman, and he is very angelic, very angelic.
He's also like a big child.
Oh yeah, big
Unconditional
child.
love.
Yeah.
Unconditional love.
But yeah, so I went through a 7-hour exorcism, and the thing was very, very dark. The shaman, he had a premonition the night before, so he knew that it was going to happen. And I didn't know it was going to happen, but I get there, and all of a sudden he's putting like tying stuff around my waist, and like I'm having to wear this special poncho. No one else is like getting this treatment, so I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? You know? And so I was getting real nervous because I was like, I'm onto something. Like I don't know why they're doing this just to me, but I still had no idea. But he just, it's like this, it was a demonic witch. She showed herself. He could see her. He can see things. He can hear things. He could hear what she was saying to him. She threatened to burn the place down if she were to get banished out. And the craziest thing, it took about 7 hours, and I was so sick. Oh my gosh, so sick. It was a real, true type, like what you would see, in the movies, exorcism. And that thing did not want to come out of me, and it finally did. I looked instantly years younger. Instantly the insomnia was gone, instantly healed. That thing was behind all of it. And the crazy thing is there was a fire. We have a fire that transmutes, and she tried to burn the place down. The fire went crazy. They were all having to try to throw rocks, all this stuff. And then David has a picture of this on his phone.
Anyone that wants this picture, I can send it to you. It's wild.
She showed herself. And you can see the witch. She's sitting this, and you can see a pitchfork. You can see she looks like an alien face, alien eyes, and you can see the spine. You can see everything.
We did a podcast episode on this, and I literally have the photos in my email. I send it to anyone that wants it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was a completely different person, after that.
And I want to real quick just shed a little light because everyone, of course, is entitled to their own beliefs on things, but our work in this field, it has been mind-blowing of how the reality in our experience of what there's angels, there's demons, there's everything in between, and sex is a sacred portal. It's sacred, and what most people don't realize is that is an opportunity. If there's abuse involved in that entities can come in, as well as blacking out in alcohol and stuff like that. So there's different ways these things can come in, and whenever they usually lie in the unconscious. And when there's a trigger, the vibration lowers enough that thing can take over. People that have crazy bouts of rage or can't control what they're saying, or just all these things, sometimes those can be little signs of it.
Because I was very there were times that I was very self-aware, but I was like, why did I just freak out on David or or my mom but I really couldn't control it. I couldn't control it. And I mean, so that's a real thing. And I watched it in my mom. So whenever my mom ended up, coming to several ceremonies with us and having her exorcism, I knew there was always something in there, but I didn't know it was going to be as dark as what we saw come out. But we see exorcisms often in ceremony, and it's always after the third cup.
So
it's always the third cup
to
or
answer
fourth.
to answer that question, I know that was a long answer, but that's how the formula was created. The formula that Maegen discovered, that formula we took everywhere. We do them internationally at all of our international retreats. People have the most extreme life transformations at them. At our international retreats, domestic, we kind of do them all over, but that formula is the formula that built Maegical, and that's the formula we utilize at all of our healing experiences, the one that she created.
And I do want to say something that makes Maegical unique in our ayahuasca ceremonies, well, with anything, is, other ayahuasca ceremonies, they're calling in the plant spirits. Very important. We obviously do that. But what really makes us special is that our shamans and our team, we work with the energy of Christ consciousness. So that's the energy that we are channeling. That's the energy that is using us as vessels. And that is why you read our review. You ask anyone that's been to our retreats, there are miraculous things that do take place in ceremony. There really, truly is.
You said, the energy of Christ. Correct? Did I just hear that?
Yes.
Our shamans are very unique. Most shamans just work with ayahuasca. We still bring in ayahuasca, but our teachers always have Christ on the mantle. They have Mother Mary on the mantle. It's not the indoctrination part, not the fear-based
that's where I came from.
I said this before we went on air, and I read about this 6 years ago. I was at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, and this particular day they were allowing 2 people at a time.
Oh, you
did
tell us that.
To crawl through a little. And by the way, when I was there, I couldn't walk. I was walking with a cane. My knee was really bad, and I had been treated every which way. You'll find this interesting. Every which way mankind and modern medicine can treat a knee, I had done to me to heal my knee, and even some illegal things. DMSO was a chemical. They use it in Europe to help horses run faster. That was injected into my knee. Ozone. I had magnets done by a Colombia South American doctor. So I had it all done. Nothing worked. So I soon after I'd gotten back from, I was going to get a new knee. But anyway, this day I was at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I was with my sister. My wife was somewhere else, and they let us crawl through this little space into Christ's tomb. So there I am touching the casket from where Christ was buried and where he was resurrected from. And I did my little meditation that I had to do personally. Anyway, the next day we went to Nazareth in the Church of the Annunciation, Mary's church. And I'm walking real slow with a cane. And my little party, they were already outside. I was alone. I went down, and in the basement there's a little shrine to Mary, and I did my meditation, and I'm walking up really slowly and as I'm walking up the stairs, there's a sharp pain that runs right through my body, through my knee. It was like intense, like wow. And anyway, and I continued to walk out, and there's a side door in the church, and it's funny, I took one step out, and I yelled, "Oh my God." It was almost like Fred Sanford was yelling to Elizabeth, "I'm coming."
Sanford.
And I said, "Oh my God." And my wife and sister-in-law, they all said, "What happened?" And I said, "I'm healed."
Wow.
And again, I'm a regular guy here, football, basketball. I'm healed. I don't need this cane anymore. Now, I wasn't healed to the point where I can go play tennis again, but I was healed.
Wow.
No more pain. And I put that under, that's why I'm so fascinated listening to you guys, because the stuff works for
Mhm.
your whatever you find in your world, whatever works, it does work because there's so much that we don't understand.
That's right.
And it's funny, the first thing I did when I came back to New Jersey is I went to my dear friend who's my orthopedist, and he's great, and he's kept me basically put together. And I said, hey, by the way, what happened? And he kind of smiled at me, there's no explanation.
Ah,
So that's why I love listening, to you guys on your journey, because there's great similarities. There's just different vehicles how we approach the end result.
Yeah.
Uh, and I still been, it's 6 years later. I don't need a new knee. My knee's not like an 11-year-old gymnast, so be it. But that again, so what I'm listening to is so fascinating and relevant and real because I lived it in my own
mhm.
way.
Yeah.
So, is there a 4 or 5 line message? What is your mission with Magical? By the way, I'm holding this up. This is the forthcoming book. We'll
Yes.
talk about that briefly. Just a little graphic I have. So what is
The mission.
your, by the way, you do have, and I thought this is important to mention, you have 100,000 followers.
Tick,
On
yeah,
TikTok.
TikTok. We're about to pass 100,000. Our podcast has a couple thousand, and
Well,
LinkedIn, Facebook. We have yeah.
that's great. I mean, and it's wonderful. And I know about how you have to develop that, and it ain't easy, and you did it. So what is your mission? Your mission with
So the one really quick addition I wanted to add, because I think it's very important with the energies we bring into ceremony. We bring in 4 really important energies: Christ consciousness, Mother Mary, the Jaguar, because the Jaguar is the sacred protector. We are trained by the Colombian culture, by our teachers that are in the Colombian indigenous, and that's even in the Amazon, that's the
They
sacred.
show up.
The Jaguars show up. It's a
They
sacred
show up
protector.
when we're in the Maloka.
And then we also bring
Yeah.
in the energy of Mary Magdalene, who we both strongly feel isn't spoken enough about. She was beautiful. All her writings were burned, but she has an amazing gospel. She had a mystery school, and her and Yeshua, her and Jesus, were great together. So we bring those energies in for the ceremonies. Okay.
I also
great energy.
I want to say one last thing too, is my mother and I's relationship is healed because of this medicine.
Yes.
We have a beautiful relationship now.
And
And so I
was
do
tough.
want to make sure that I include that because I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Now you can, what is our mission, babe?
Our mission is to heal the world, one soul, one mindset at a time. That's the main. There's multiple little missions like destigmatizing plant medicines and leading people back to themselves. But it's to heal the world, one mindset, one soul at a time.
And you're
Absolutely.
doing that. So kind of winding down, because the truth is we could talk for hours. By the way, and the more I listen to you guys on my little journey, and what happened to me in my healing, and that's why I wrote my novel, to talk about my journey and the spirituality. And it's funny, I never asked for any of this. You don't go out searching for
No.
this. But one day, and I call this, to me in life, there are 3 simple gifts. And actually listening to the two of you certainly demonstrate those 3 simple gifts. It's health, spirit, and love.
Health,
Uh, and you guys have that, and that's really important to me. And you don't realize what a remarkable gift spirit is to have that. It's there for everyone.
Mhm.
It's all part of each and every one of us. But when you realize you have it, you nurture it, you appreciate it, you're grateful to the universe for it. It's a wonderful. I call it a simple gift. These are simple gifts, but it's a great song, folk song, Before Your Time, called Simple Gifts. Great song. It's short. Actually, Obama, I think, had that played on his first inauguration in Washington. Somebody did Simple Gifts. It was an instrumental. Whatever. I'm rambling, but I'm rambling because I'm so fascinated with your world, because in my world there's such great parallels. What is Magical's plan for the next couple of years? Where are you going?
So we actually purchased land with our teachers, 21 acres in Colombia, in really beautiful
It's tropical,
off-grid land.
jungle, but also mountains. Really beautiful.
So they've already started. It's untouched.
Untouched. No
It's
one's
untouched.
ever lived on it.
So our teachers are over there now with the workers. We've already cleared out trails.
They've already made the Maloka, or they're almost done with that.
We've picked out where our home's going to be built over there. It's going to be a beautiful healing retreat center in Colombia that we're building right now. So we're just allowing God to align it and working and following the path to continue to work and do this healing work and raise the funds to build that retreat center out. And build a beautiful and continue to go around the world and
Belize, we love our Belize retreat. That's coming up in November.
So I do want to, out of all our retreats are amazing, but Belize is truly the ultimate experience.
Amazing.
So
Five-star hotel.
That five-star luxury.
I did my research.
It's very luxury.
Nice.
But the plan is to build that retreat center out, finalize where we've done.
But we want to go. We want to be all over. So
Yeah.
that's our headquarters, but we want to have other places too.
For sure.
You know?
Costa Rica calls us a lot.
And then our books. We have a children's book series. We already have our animals are the characters.
Wow.
So,
They're like
you have to
Dr.
understand the back behind
Yeah.
that. So the point behind that is we strongly feel that so much happens to us in childhood that affects us. If we can get these beautiful lessons to kids, so it's written Dr. Seuss style, and
so good.
It's called Maegical Tales. There's already one that's published.
The series, Magical Tales.
Magical Tales, and it's already
the first one that's published is called Pepe's Grounding Adventure, and you can get that on Amazon. It's really, really good.
It's cute.
Send me the link for that.
Okay.
So our goal is to expand our children's book series. We've done a lot of healing retreats this year that we facilitated. So we're taking 3 very intentional months off at the end of the year to finish our book and our story.
For our story. And we're also doing 100-day. I love long-term juice fasts. They're very healing. And we have a thing called a mucus placoid that we can all release in us. That's just from eating foods that were not designed for our bodies for so long. And so we are doing 100-day juice fast, which actually you thrive on these. People like when I work out, my form's better, after the first week, I'll say, then it feels great. So we are just cleaning our vessel, getting really connected to the divine and finishing our story.
November to February. And that's really what we're doing. Then just continuing to grow and bring more team members on, stabilize our team, and continue to expand Magical's mission.
Wow. That is a wow. It's funny you just mentioned also. I do things a little bit on my own because that's just the way. But listening to you. But like everybody, like many earthbound people, I had gained a ton of weight during a pandemic. Only because I'm just sitting in this chair, and I put myself on my own intermittent fasting.
Ooh.
And I've been on it for a year. I lost 40 pounds.
That's awesome. That's so healthy.
Fasting is so healing too. Oh.
And the message is again, tied into you guys. This stuff works.
Yes.
You're juicing, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
works. It works. So
And it's
I
delicious. It's so delicious.
it works.
I
Yeah,
want to
it
create
works.
a juice recipe book. I really am going to do that at some point, probably during that 3 months.
So guys, I will say that I'm invited you back when this is published.
Yeah.
You'll come back. We'll talk about this. And anytime you guys want to come back and chat and bring people on, whatever. I'm just, loyalty is a wonderful human virtue. So we're friends, and I'm hugely loyal to you guys now. I'm growing this channel, so come back whenever. I'm here to be continued. This has all been so fascinating for me.
It's been an honor for us
Yeah,
too.
thank
I
you
know
so
it's
much
been
for
a
having
huge,
me.
really huge honor. All the contact information. My going to your website was an experience for me to read and see all that. And again, I believe we're at the very precipice of a whole new world of understanding where you guys already are. And I believe that. So, and I also believe in the universe. So we were brought together for a reason.
100%.
Oh yeah, nothing's by accident.
Yeah. So thank you. We're going to be in touch. I'll have all the
Yes.
information. Don't leave. I'm just going to sign off now.
Cool.
Okay.
David and Megan, this has been great. You actually made my day and beyond.
Oh, you made our day.
This has been beautiful. You made
Thank
ours.
you. Thank you. Thank you.